have noticed that most of the guests are mostly white males of 22 episodes.
Yeah, let's get into that.
No.
I want to show you a clip that was going viral over the weekend of Jerry Seinfeld, and this is a few months ago. But you know, Seinfeld. What's interesting about
no, that clip was not from a few months ago. The clip he's referring to, that's Dave Rubin, and that clip was from 2014, actually. It's from a CBS morning show, and Seinfeld's talking about the first season of his show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And why it's going viral now? That's a good question. I mean, it's been 10 years, right?
About him is that he, when at the height of the show and in the 80s, 90s, a clip that was going viral over the weekend of Jerry Seinfeld, and this is a few months ago. But you know, Seinfeld. What's interesting about him is that he, when at the height of the show and in the 80s, 90s, and all that, Jerry, no one knew his political opinions about anything. Now,
that's actually the opposite of interesting. But that's true. For the most part, he was apolitical, except now that I think about it, maybe that show was kind of racist. No, I mean, even back then when I'd watch that show, you know, when those first went into syndication on TBS, I'd really watch that show. And, yeah, you could see a sort of undercurrent, a seething conservative undercurrent that would just pop up every once in a while on Seinfeld.
In the 80s, 90s, and all that, Jerry, no one knew his political opinions about anything. Now he has somehow become somewhat controversial. We'll get to that in just a second. But here he was being interviewed and asked about, well, just not having enough DEI in his comedy and his shows.
And there it is, folks. That's why this show, this clip went viral 10 years after the fact, is because it was artificially boosted by the right in their effort to fight their latest phantom issue, diversity hiring, the dreaded diversity hiring. And of course, they crave celebrities. They crave celebrity allies. No one cares what celebrities think, but please think the way we think, celebrities. It helps them validate their feelings and their insecurities about not being the popular kids.
Talk to?
I have noticed that most of the guests are mostly white males of 22 episodes.
Yeah, let's get into that.
No, but you
take a look over here, Peter. What do you see? A lot of whiteys. What's going on here? Oh, this really pisses me off. But go.
And that's the giveaway. That's the giveaway right there. It pisses him off. Why does it piss him off? I mean, he's simply repeating a question that he got off of Twitter, which is, why do you just have like white guys on your show? I mean, what about the comedians like I love who aren't white guys? I mean, and by the way, pointing out the lack of diversity in a television studio audience on a CBS morning show is not exactly, it does not exactly bolster your argument against diversity on television. But I mean, you know, you look at that first season and there were no women. And the only person of color that they had on that show was Mario Joyner, and he had to share an episode with Colin Quinn.
It really pisses me off. People think it's the census or something. I mean, this has got to represent the actual pie chart of America. Who cares? It's just funny. You know, funny is the world that I live in. You're funny, I'm interested. You're not funny, I'm not interested.
And in that world, there are no black people or women, I guess. I mean, seriously, like you know, if this was an invalid criticism, then why would you diversify your audience at all? Why wouldn't you stick to your guns? I mean, eventually it took like 10 seasons or something like that, but he had Dave Chappelle on. Why have Dave Chappelle? Why have Chris Rock? Why have George Wallace? Why have your fellow genocidal, psychopathic, racist Sarah Silverman? Why have her on the show? If this is an invalid criticism, and did having a more diverse guest list actually bring that show down somehow? I mean, you know, and by the way, why don't you have black guests on your show? That's the question. Because I'm only interested in funny. You know, does Seinfeld think he's funnier than Cat Williams? Whatever. Because it sounds like he's saying black people aren't funny in that. So I was watching some dirty pornography on the internet. It was like some kind of amateur porn. It was like a couple doing it doggy style. And by the way, do cats do it doggy style? Anyways, in the background, there was Seinfeld was playing on the television, and it was the puffy shirt episode. And I just stopped masturbating and watched it. That's how much of a fan I am. Also, it's also kind of difficult to maintain an erection when Jerry Seinfeld's shouting, "But I don't want to look like a pirate." But I remember watching that show on TBS when it went into syndication. I think it was TBS. And I always thought it was weird that he had a strange hatred of the post office. This is the most popular department in the government. This is the most self-sufficient, efficient way to deliver your mail and to deliver products, packages. And this guy had a serious phobia about the post office. And that is an exclusively right-wing sentiment. And here's the other thing. Jackie Childs, that's an odd choice for a character. This was clearly, and this is well known that this was based on Johnny Cochran. But Jackie Childs was an ambulance chaser. He was a shyster. He was a con artist. He was a slip and fall grifter. Johnny Cochran was a civil rights attorney. And it sounds to me like, suing the police department for wrongful death in his mind is the same thing as suing McDonald's for a hot cup of coffee, which, by the way, is an urban legend that dollars for donuts, Jerry Seinfeld believes. And then we've got the Wilding scene.
Name tags. Name tags? So people can go around saying hello to one another.
Oh, I see. So you go, hey, you know who I saw wilding today? Herb.
So, folks, for those of you who don't know, Wilding is, for those of you who don't know, Wilding is a term that was popularized in the late 80s. Let's see. According to the internet, it's a term used to describe sexual violence committed by a group of quote-unquote urban teens. And it has racial connotations. This is a term popularized right around the time of the Central Park Five, when the cops and the press were trying to frame these 5 innocent black kids for rape. And it is a term used exclusively by racists. This is from the episode, I think it's called No Fat Yogurt or Low Fat Yogurt. And it's the one where it's Rudy Giuliani was going up against David Dinkins, who was the first and only black mayor of New York. And by the way, I should also mention that, for those of you who don't know, Seinfeld and his wife are helping finance these racist, Donald Trump-loving, Israel-defending thugs who are attacking peaceful protesters on college campuses with brass knuckles and all kinds of weapons. And a lot of these Zionist thugs are also happen to be blatantly anti-Semitic. And that's probably why he got so many walkouts at his Duke University commencement speech.
It's just funny, you know. Funny is the world that I live in. You're funny, I'm interested. You're not funny, I'm not interested. Okay. And I have no interest in gender or race or anything like that. But everyone else is kind of with their little calculating. Is this the exact right mix? You know, I think that's to me it's anti-comedy.
So Jerry's answer there is absolutely right. And we have seen wokeness destroy comedy, which is why there's very few funny movies anymore, or funny TV shows.
Nope. Wokeness has nothing to do with why there's no funny movies anymore. There's still funny television shows, but, you know, frankly, all the stuff, I mean, even Seinfeld, when he tried to make that same argument that Dave Rubin is trying to make, accidentally admitted that his favorite shows, the shows he thought were funny, were all woke. He said MASH. He said Mary Tyler Moore. He said All in the Family. It's got nothing to do with wokeness, bro. We do not have funny movies the way we had in the early 2000s. That's true. The people who made those movies, people like Adam McKay, Judd Apatow, Todd Phillips, they've all grown up. They've moved on with their lives. They're doing other things. They're doing grown-up things. But that's not because of diversity. The fact that they haven't been replaced by like new blood. Listen, diversity has never been bad for comedy. Diversity gave us Eddie Murphy. Diversity gave us Richard Pryor. The reason why people like Adam McKay, Judd Apatow, and Todd Phillips have not been replaced by anybody is because it's so much easier to sit behind a microphone and make up stuff, as opposed to writing a script and then spending 5 years hoping it gets produced and then it gets shelved. The reason why you don't have funny movies is the same reason why Stanley Kubrick was never able to make Napoleon. Because films don't get made and nobody wants to waste their time doing that. They could just stand on a stage and talk. They could sit in a podcast and talk. Hey, radio has killed the video star. That's the truth of it.
Or anything else, right? And his response, like, and of course the interviewer is just another one of these just sort of like asexual white weirdos. Like, why doesn't he, I don't know, commit Harry Carey, right? He could just stab himself right there and we could get a black gay guy up there hosting that show. Wouldn't be that difficult to ask Jerry those questions, but of course he never does that.
Of course he didn't do that. Of course he didn't commit Harry Carey on national television just because Jerry Seinfeld doesn't think black people are funny.